Hello and welcome. You're watching Times Now. I am Meenakshi Upreti. For the course of the next 30 minutes, our top focus will be the Prime Minister's Tianjin touchdown, the summit, the meeting, the visit. The world is waiting for the Prime Minister reaching China. What does this visit mean? The elephant-dragon tango. What does this mean for India? What does this mean for geopolitics, especially coming in the backdrop of the US tariff tyranny? We have live visuals coming in, viewers. Before we tell you anything more, let's cut across to those visuals live. The minute and the moment we all had been waiting for. The Prime Minister has landed. He is in China for the SCO summit. It's an all-important summit, extremely important. The Prime Minister's China visit, one, because it's coming, as I said, in the backdrop of the Trump tariff row. Remember, the Prime Minister is now in China. He was earlier in Tokyo, where multiple key agreements, declarations have already been done. Now, in Tianjin, that's the venue of the SCO summit. It's the Prime Minister and obviously Xi Jinping who are going to hold multiple bilaterals on the sidelines of the event. It is going to be very, very important, as I was telling you earlier, because again, very, very significant, because it's coming in the backdrop, obviously, of the trade tensions with the United States of America. The visuals which you see on your screen, viewers, that is what all of us had been waiting for. The Prime Minister has landed there in Tianjin. Again, as I said, look at the type of, ceremonial welcome for the Prime Minister, the dance and the celebrations which are happening there in China. Very significant, because this is also the first visit which is coming after, the Galwan clash. Very, very significant, because there are some very serious issues remaining with China. What will this meeting translate into? What does this mean for India when it comes to obviously all the outstanding issues with China? Is it going to be a changing dynamics? World is watching very carefully, viewers, because remember, India has been a part of the Quad summit, and we were seen by the US earlier, perhaps even now, as some country which could be a counter to China. But now, in the backdrop of the Trump tariff, is that equation going to change? The Prime Minister, though, very importantly in Japan, had spoken of a free and fair Indo-Pacific. India's stand obviously is crystal clear when it comes to a free and fair Indo-Pacific. But again, what will this meeting mean? Is it going to be powerful optics? Will there be more substance to it? Everyone's talking about it. Now, these bilaterals are going to be very, very significant. These bilaterals, as I said, are significant because they could really set the tone for the future course of bilateral relations. Are the bilateral relations going to improve? Is it going to be a thaw in the tie between the two countries? All of those questions remain. But obviously, a very, very significant summit, a mother of all summits, as many have been saying. Swati, my colleague, she's live, obviously, from Tianjin. Swati, over to you. Take us through the latest. The Prime Minister has landed. This is the moment all of us, obviously, were waiting for.
The Prime Minister is coming from Japan. And he's described his visit as a productive one. He said that the visit to Japan was productive, and that he is going to have significant outcomes. So the Prime Minister, remember, has landed in China, in Tianjin, after a gap of 7 years. He's going to be attending the SCO summit, which in its own is a big indication of how the ties between both India and China are normalizing. And like you said, yes, the entire West is watching and monitoring this bilateral very, very closely, because this is not just about India and China. It's about promoting a strong global South, the voice of global South. That's something that, India has been talking about. In fact, remember when we had the presidency, the theme of SCO summit was secure, where S stood for security, environment, connectivity, trade, and that's how India wants to maintain it, push forward the theme of secure. Most importantly, during this summit, it's not just going to be about trade and strengthening of bilateral ties, but India wants a commitment. India wants a commitment from the member states of the SCO to deliver a strong statement on the issues like terrorism, extremism, and separatism, the very reasons why SCO was founded. Initially, from 2005 till 2017, India remained an observer. It became a member only in 2017. So India also wants that commitment. Remember, if that happens in the presence of Pakistan, because Pakistan is also a member state of SCO, then that would be a very, very significant step towards sending out a message that SCO stands against cross-border terrorism. Now, apart from all of that, let's focus on the moment that we're talking about, the Prime Minister landing in Tianjin. He is on his way to the Wanda Vista Hotel, from where we are reporting, from where the Prime Minister, in fact, is he is going to stay here for the next 2 days. And there's a cultural performance that has been organized. The Indian diaspora is waiting for the Prime Minister to arrive, which, remember, Meenakshi, is a regular feature now. Every time the Prime Minister travels to another country, the diaspora gathers there just to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister. That's the kind of love, special bond that they share with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And he never disappoints the Indian diaspora. Irrespective of how long the flight journey has been, the Prime Minister always, with a warm smile on his face, welcomes the Indian diaspora and interacts with them.
Well, absolutely, you are right. And we have seen, multiple such interactions every time the Prime Minister sets foot on a foreign soil. He is welcomed warmly by the diaspora. And as you rightly said, however long the flight be, however tired the Prime Minister may be, always greeting them with a warm smile. But this visit is a lot more, much more than optics. What will it really mean for India in tangible terms? Professor Swan Singh, foreign affairs expert, is joining us live on the broadcast. We had been waiting, obviously, for these visuals. The Prime Minister has landed in China. It's an all-important visit. One, obviously, it's coming the first time after the Galwan clash. It is obviously, even though the ties are bettering, there is a tension between India and China, and also very significantly coming in the backdrop of the Trump tariff row, sir.
Absolutely, there is no doubt. Even when this is formally a multilateral meeting of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the greater importance and focus definitely is on a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping, and what it entails for India-China relations, as you mentioned, especially in the context of growing tensions in India-United States relations. On the side, extension to trilateral meeting of President Putin, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi would also be interesting. And this is because last time Indian Prime Minister was in China was also to attend Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit meeting in Qingdao in 2018. But in 2017, quadrilateral security framework meetings had been revived by President Trump during his first term. And since then, India had relatively shown more interest in BRICS and less interest in SCO summit meetings. And in that sense, it's also a revival of India's interest in SCO summit meetings. So there is going to be multiple outcomes at the multilateral level. India's growing interest in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, what it means for bilateral relationship of India and China, which is already on an upswing in focusing on normalization of bilateral relations.
Well, yes, the bilateral relations are focusing, as you rightly said, on normalization of the relation between the two countries. How this visit is going to boost that also coming in, obviously, as you were also mentioning, in the backdrop of the trade tensions India is facing with the US. All of that is going to be extremely significant to watch out for. We also have my colleague Swati, who is joining us live. She is live from Tianjin. We also have, obviously, Srinjoy, our in-house expert. He's also live with us. We have Dr. Monica Verma. She's a strategic affairs expert. We also have Birzeen Wagmar, also South Asia Institute University of from the University of London. I'll go to you, Swati. You're live, obviously, from Tianjin. The visuals we all had been waiting for finally here. Extremely significant, I'm sure, of this visit. What's the mood like? Highly upbeat. Diaspora also something you were speaking of, eagerly awaiting to catch one glimpse of the Prime Minister. What can we expect now through the course of the day? Take us through that first.
Okay, so the Prime Minister is going to arrive here at the Wanda Vista Hotel, where he is going to be staying for the next 2 days. The diaspora has gathered, like I said, to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A cultural performance is going to be taking place here at the hotel itself, apart from the traditional welcome that you are witnessing when the Prime Minister first landed in Tianjin. And all eyes are on the bilateral ties. Yes, the mood is upbeat. The diaspora feels that special connect with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And remember, people-to-people connect is also a very important aspect of diplomacy. Yes, there will be talks about trade. Yes, there will be talks about strengthening the bilateral relationship. But we saw the thaw in relationship when China resume the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, or when India decided to, resume issuance of visa to the Chinese nationals. So that people-to-people connect is extremely important. The Prime Minister understands that very well, and that's the reason why, like I said, the Indian diaspora always is a very important aspect. You were speaking about Donald Trump slapping tariff against all the countries that do not actually agree with them. It's my way or the highway for Donald Trump, and India's defiance is something that definitely has irked him. And Donald Trump at the moment, Meenakshi, literally acting like a self-appointed mediator who's looking for problems in every part of the world that he thinks he can solve. While the war is far from over in Gaza or in Ukraine, Donald Trump wants to penalize India for buying oil from Russia, while completely forgetting how Europe and US itself continues to do trade. So, that is something that will bolster ties not just between India and Russia and India and China as well. And why I say that is because China has already given us a glimpse of how it has stood against the tariff that has been slapped on India. China openly took a stand and said this is nothing but bullying, and you have to stop a bully. You have to take a stand. And this 50% tariff on India is just unacceptable. So that is renewed focus. That is renewed focus when it comes to cooperation, when it comes to bilateral ties, and that's the kind of commitment that we are witnessing. And it's not just about India, that India has been forced to look at China as a friend. It's not that. Both India and China need each other. Remember, US knows very well that if it wants to counter China, it needs a strong partner like India. And China wants a larger access to India's economy. That's the reason why the groundwork was laid, Meenakshi. When the Chinese Foreign Minister, Mr. Wang Yi, came to India, he spoke about all the issues that are of mutual concern and mutual interest to India. At the same time, maintaining that, mutual respect or sovereignty of the nation is extremely important to both countries like India and China. And that is the reason why Donald Trump finds it extremely difficult to intervene or meddle in affairs of India and China. Both India and China on that particular point are on the same page, that yes, you're a friend of ours, okay, you're an ally, let's do trade, let's do business. But when it comes to India's sovereignty, India's integrity and pride, then we do not want a third-party intervention. And that stand of India has irked Donald Trump. Donald Trump kept claiming that he is the one who brokered peace, that he is the one who ensured ceasefire between India and Pakistan, a claim that India has rejected, India has rubbished time and again. In fact, from the parliament itself, the Prime Minister said that no one has arm-twisted us, that no superpower or no leader of the world has forced us to agree for the ceasefire. In fact, Pakistan came out and rejected that. Pakistan said that we didn't ask Donald Trump for help. But look how Pakistan benefits with a trade deal, and Donald Trump decides to penalize India. And then he goes on to say that, Modi is a terrific man, that India is a friend. First, Mr. Navarro calls the Russia-Ukraine war Modi's war, and then to play, good cop, bad cop, you have Mr. Besant saying, but eventually both countries are going to figure it out. So while the strain in ties or the tension in ties between India and America is growing significantly, India is not bowing down to pressure. That's the most important thing, Meenakshi, that one needs to underline. That India is trying to diversify, and India is trying to engage multilaterally. And remember what our Foreign Affairs Minister said, which means किसी से हमेशा दुश्मनी नहीं है.
Right. Obviously, the thaw in ties, that's something which India and China both had been working towards. Bilateral ties, to a certain extent, one can say, obviously better at the moment. To enjoy, if you could just join in here, a short while ago, we were also having a very similar discussion. You said, whatever said and done, there are border issues which remain with China. How do you view this all important visit by the Prime Minister? Optics, or are you expecting, some direct and clear deliverables?
Well, first of all, the border issue has been there for a long time, and it's not going to go away. Even today, there are no troops, Chinese troops inside Indian territory. They are all across the line of actual control, but they have not gone back to their original positions. They have thinned out. Yes, admittedly, they have thinned out to a considerable extent, but they are still there. They have not gone back to where they came from 5 years ago. So that is something that has to be kept in mind. They are not exactly eyeball to eyeball, but they are still a reasonable distance away, only a reasonable distance away. Now, that is one thing that has to be sorted out. The other thing, of course, is relating to trade. The trade deficits are huge in the sense that China exports much more to India than India exports to China. And that is something that has to be sorted out, either through investment or China opening its markets much more than it does now. So basically there are two issues, the border and the fact that troops, the PLA, are still where they should not be, really, ideally. Yes, they have gone back, but they are still across reasonably close to the line of actual control. Yes, they have thinned out, but they are still there. And secondly, the trade issue has to be sorted out. Everything else will follow. People-to-people relations, the fact that Mansarovar was opened, all of that are positive signs. And the fact that Wang Yi was here, he met Ajit Doval, he met S. Jaishankar, these are all positive signs. And they add up to a possibility of a very good discussion, a very good bilateral between the two leaders. But we have to see how it goes tomorrow. But it's important that the meeting goes well, because that could actually lead to easing the situation.
Yes, the Modi handshake, that's what everyone's waiting for. But Dr. Monica Verma, if you could just come in here, end of the day, just as my colleagues were also saying, yes, issues remain, trade deficit, border issues, all those issues remain. But certainly, this is a huge step. The Prime Minister visiting China, first time post-Galwan.
Well, Meenakshi, I still don't see it as a very big step. Reason being, it's a multilateral, forum, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and if we are not forgetting, the last some top-level meeting took place in Pakistan, and our Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also had to visit Pakistan, provided the kind of situation we have with Pakistan, the way it is the state sponsor of terrorism against India, and yet Dr. S. Jaishankar had to visit Pakistan. That's another matter that no bilaterals were hosted on the sidelines. But still, this is one big step that the foreign minister had to take. So I see it not as a very big change. The only reason why we are, biased to see it as a very big change in India-China relations, or maybe a very big development on the bilateral front, is because of what is happening with the United States. But if we all, carefully observe what Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, himself had cleared a few weeks ago, he said that, all that development that we have with China today, all the, cooling off, what we can say, has been happening for a long time. And the only reason people are associating it with, the United States is because of the trade tensions that we have. But that does not take away from the fact that all this, peace between India and China, all the, the animosity that we shared after Galwan, all the tensions that we had after Galwan, they were slowly dying out. So I personally do not see it as a very big development as of now. But yeah, of course.
Okay, you're being cautious. You're being cautious, obviously, given the backdrop as well. Birjeen Wagmar, you're also, with us. What will you say about the developments? The Prime Minister, obviously, in Tianjin, the moment we all were waiting for, finally here. Do you see this going, beyond mere optics, or would you also share the, caution which is being alerted by the other experts?
The SCO is a China token shop for all purposes and intents. Let's remember that. It helps the fact that India is in the room and not out of the room to at least know what's going on, because India is in a room led primarily by autocrats and those who are not well disposed to it, generally speaking, with whom India has correct and even formal cordial relations, nothing more, nothing less. So for Beijing to talk, and talk indeed is cheap, that it supports India on its problems currently with Mr. Trump on tariffs is fine. But the fact is, what is happening on ground, which Beijing will not talk about, and the Indian public is not fully in the know, is of Chinese PLA troops still very much on Indian soil, and that Indian troops have been locked in within no patrol buffer zones, and they have forfeited access to several patrolling points, and Indian herdsmen have had to relinquish grazing rights as well. That is the ground reality post-Galwan, which is not being discussed. In June 2025, the SCO Defense Ministers meeting took place, if you recollect, and no mention was made of Pahalgam, which is why India refused to sign the final communique, because obviously Pakistan was shielded by China, and it will continue happening, make no mistake. So there is that aspect too. India also finds itself at odds with the SCO and its decidedly anti-Western rhetoric, be it the SCO or the BRICS, and India has always had a braking mechanism not to see that it goes overboard in its anti-Western flourishes. For example, condemning Israel, which India steadfastly refused to do so, and quite rightly, and also the Western financial institutions and the like, but also when it comes to terrorism, which has a direct impact on India, where Pakistan is shielded at the SCO consistently, and where Russia is ambivalent about Pakistan too, which it has been ever since Russia-Pakistan have been conducting friendly military games, Dosti Druzhba military exercises since 2016, which an Indian public again is not basically aware of, and I'm making them aware as a historian.
Well, you know, when it comes to the issues regarding Pakistan, the Indian media, though I would like to correct you here, has also been highlighting the same. We are also looking at, this particular meeting. And Shanjoy, if you could just come in here, you were also, talking about how we need to be cautious when we look at the Xi Modi handshake moment, the Prime Minister landing there in China. Obviously, it's years after the Galwan visit, and clearly, there is no doubt about it that outstanding issues remain. But do you think that the visit, even though it may be a multilateral summit, can there be a strategic recalibration, or is it just going to stop at mere photo ops?
No, it's a step forward. That the fact that the Prime Minister is in Beijing suggests that some kind of groundwork has already happened. When Wang he came here, he met Jaishankar, he met Ajit Doval, and there has to be some reason. Otherwise, for Prime Minister to go and just come back after shaking hands doesn't really make sense. So hopefully, and I'm saying hopefully, there will be at least some forward movement. But India is very aware that perhaps 80% of Pakistani weapons are all Chinese. And during these 4 days of Sindoor, there was considerable help, intelligence and other things from the Chinese side. These things have not been forgotten. And let's not forget that Sindoor was not that long ago. So all these things are there. But nevertheless, this is an opportunity for the two leaders to meet. And if there is at the highest level some kind of decision for a move forward, a way forward, we are not saying that every problem will be solved between lunch and tea tomorrow. But the point is, we can hope for some forward movement.
Yes,
I mean, the most obvious one.
Right, and it's certainly a step in the right direction. Also, obviously, it's all the more significant, this visit, because it's coming in the backdrop of the trade tensions between India and the US. For now, we've run out of time. I thank you all for joining us with your views on this all-important, issue. The Prime Minister landing there in China, the moment we all had been waiting for finally here. We'll bring you each and every update. Viewers, from the SCO summit, the Prime Minister's Tianjin touchdown, the visit to China, which the world is talking about. It's an all-important visit, viewers. It's going to mark the Prime Minister's first visit to China in 7 years. This is going to be his first visit, remember, since the 2020 Galwan clash. And also, it's going to be an extremely crucial visit because it's coming amidst the ongoing tariff war, which is going on with the United States of America. The SCO summit will also see the coming together of world leaders, some of the biggest leaders of Global South. It's going to be a show of the solidarity of Global South. What does this mean? Why this visit is so significant? What can we expect out of this visit? Let's talk about all of this and more. My colleague Shanjoy joining us live from the newsroom. Shanjoy, we were earlier talking about how, there are certainly no doubt about it, outstanding issues which remain with China. There is no doubt about that. But certainly, as you were also underlining and emphasizing, it's a step in the right direction. A thaw in relations. Also, what makes this, the meeting extremely important, the Xi Modi handshake, is the fact that it's coming in the backdrop of the trade tensions with Donald Trump.
Yes, this is a step in the right direction. The fact that the SCO was going to happen in China was known to everybody for a long, long time. This had been decided in advance. But nobody knew that Donald Trump would come up with this 50% tariff. So it has to be said that it's a bit of a coincidence. But as far as India and China are concerned, well, there are a lot of differences. We've already talked about it. The border is a problem. The trade issues are a problem. The Pakistan's help from China is a problem. CPEC is a problem. There's no shortage of problems. But you have to solve problems, or at least you have to try to solve problems. And this is an effort to do it. And the fact that Wang Yi was here, and the fact that he met Jaishankar, the fact that he had a long chat with Ajit Doval is signs that, yes, maybe there has been a way forward when these two leaders, Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, meet. Perhaps there can be at least a step forward, a step in the right direction, as you rightly said.
Yes.
Yes, and that is important. It's important not to solve every problem between lunch and tea, but the important thing is to move in the right direction.
Yeah.
This may take a while, but let's hope at least there's some problem that is solved.
Yes, obviously progress is what everyone's hoping for. Swati also joining us live. She's live from Tianjin. Swati, the Prime Minister also obviously going to meet Chinese President. That's also on the cards, on the sidelines of the summit during this particular visit. Again, take us through what can we expect through the course of the day. Also, the visuals coming in, that sort of dance and ceremonial welcome for the Prime Minister. Diaspora, I'm sure upbeat, waiting to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister next.
Well, absolutely, Meenakshi, and it was a rousing welcome here. The moment the Prime Minister arrived, he's already arrived at the hotel where he's going to be staying for the next 2 days. Cultural performances taking place, and the moment he arrived, Bharat Mata ki Jai chants. That's how the Indian diaspora welcomed Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And the diaspora here is upbeat. They were waiting for this moment. They, in fact, have been waiting for hours together. You know how it is when a Prime Minister is arriving, the security is enhanced, and so people normally come to the venue, couple of hours before the Prime Minister is going to arrive. So they've been patiently waiting for their turn to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister, to perhaps, have an interaction with the Prime Minister. And, remember all the visuals that we've seen of the Prime Minister going abroad and meeting the diaspora. He ensures that he spends, even if it is like a couple of seconds, with the diaspora that has gathered there, especially children, and special performances have been organized. He definitely is going to acknowledge that, and that moment is going to be special for the diaspora that has been waiting for hours. And I'd like to also add one more thing to what Srinjoy was saying. Yes, there have been challenges that this tenure has witnessed, which is exactly what the Foreign Affairs Minister said, that we have witnessed challenges, but it is time now to move forward. When you will have unresolved border issues, Meenakshi, confrontation is something that is unavoidable. Also, India and China relationship has seen cooperation and confrontation at the same time. We've seen cooperation between both the countries, but confrontation as well. And it is only through negotiations, talks and dialogues that they can be resolved, and which is exactly why the 24th Special Representative dialogue took place, in which Wang Yi spoke about the unresolved border issues with NSA Ajit Doval. The other issues were discussed with Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, in which the Foreign Minister made it clear that mutual interest, mutual concerns, but at the same time mutual respect is equally important if you want a healthy bilateral relation between both the countries. Now, once the Prime Minister is done with meeting the diaspora, then tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is the big ticket event, Meenakshi, when the bilateral is going to take place between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping. And remember, the entire world is watching. Donald Trump has cast a long-drawn shadow over this Eurasian summit, but it is something that the West is monitoring very closely.
Well, absolutely. The West is monitoring this visit very, very closely. Srinjoy continues to be live with us. Srinjoy, if I could come to you, at that point we're talking about earlier, the trade deficit with China. Again, outstanding issues with China obviously remain, but what's casting a shadow on this all-important visit is obviously the trade tensions with the US, given the backdrop of the Trump tariff tantrums and the Prime Minister in the midst of all this, he's going to hold a bilateral with Xi Jinping, the handshake, the bonhomie, all of that. That is making for great photo op. But do you see anything concrete coming out of that as well?
Yes. I would expect at least some forward movement, which is why there has been so much investment in terms of time and effort by the Prime Minister. If he is not a kind of man who will go there to shake hands, smile and come back. So obviously when Wang Yi was here, he had his 2 meetings. It was clearly something had been worked out. Otherwise, he would not expect the Prime Minister to just land up, shake hands, as I said, and then depart. The point is that that is something that has been worked upon already. The fact that these visits took place is a sign that there is at least something that both sides can come up and say that, look, we've achieved this. I mean, there is a very old Kennedy-esque saying that let us not negotiate out of fear, but importantly, let us not fear to negotiate. And this second point is very important. Okay, regardless of the problems, yes, of course there is a border problem. Of course there are trade issues. Of course there is support for Pakistan. But it's better to talk than to fight. And that's exactly why both sides are talking. And they will talk tomorrow to solve the problems that they have. If you had no problems, then why would anyone be doing anything? So there are problems, there is recognition of the problems, and there is also a hope that these problems can be addressed.
Well, absolutely. And Swati, if you could just come in here, you were also mentioning step in the right direction, certainly, but what's looming large in the backdrop, obviously, this meeting, which everyone's talking about, is the Trump tariff war, the ongoing tariff war with the United States. The SCO summit is going to see coming together a lot of, world's foremost leaders of the global South. Many are calling it a show of global South solidarity as well. Can we see it as a resetting of the world order as well? Because this type of bullying by Trump, many countries have spoken out very openly against.
Absolutely. And now in some point, in the conversation, one will have to start talking about the Modi-Putin meet and the Putin factor as well, because it's not just India and China, it's India, Russia and China. And that is also half of BRICS. So that definitely is going to upset Donald Trump. He has expressed his, irritation and his frustration earlier as well. The manner in which Donald Trump is moving, slapping tariff against every single country, is not being appreciated. That definitely is a sign that countries now want to regroup. They want to stand against this sort of a behavior, and that's why India is finding support from China as well on the issue. Now, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, the White House press secretary made it clear that it was really not about India, but it's a pressure tactic that is being used by Donald Trump to put pressure on Russia, to bring Russia on the negotiation table. Well, Russia did come to the negotiation table, but what was the outcome? There were handshakes, we saw smiles, but was the war, was the issue resolved? Is the war over in Russia and Ukraine? Far from over at the moment. So what is Donald Trump really talking about? He's looking for some sort of a credit backing, acknowledgement from India that he was the one who brokered peace between India and Pakistan, and that was rejected by India. India made it absolutely clear that we do not need a third-party intervention. And from the parliament, in fact, the Prime Minister said that no world power has forced us to agree for a ceasefire. We got a call from Pakistan's DGMO, which is why, after which, in fact, India agreed to the ceasefire. So that is also one of the things that Donald Trump perhaps did not expect. He thought that he will make the announcement, and just like Pakistan, maybe India will also support Donald Trump and say that, yes, Donald Trump, he's the one who was behind it, and give credit to Donald Trump. That has not happened. Yeah. So this arm twisting is something that the entire world is witnessing at the moment. And most importantly, the nations are ready to stand up to that kind of a behavior.
Well, exactly. This type of arm twisting, that's not going to be tolerated. And Srinjoy, how do you view this entire SCO visit? Obviously, in the backdrop of the Trump tariff tensions, it's not just India. There are many countries suffering because of the tariff tyranny, if I could call it that. The global South, a show of solidarity. The global South is together. The SCO summit coming in the backdrop of the same. Would you view it as a changing of the world order? The global South also giving a bigger message that, we are not going to bow down to this bullying, this sort of US-centric prism with which, Trump and America sees the world. That's not acceptable anymore.
The American president has really done a lot of things which has changed the way many of its friends and allies think. Let's not forget that the Japanese, who are allies, we are only partners and friends. The Japanese are allies and they're not happy. The Australians are allies and they are not happy. So Trump has actually upset a lot of people. About that, there is no doubt. But will this bring about a new world order? Will it change things to such an extent that America will be completely sidelined? We don't know. India is still part of the Quad. Still part of the Quad. And a Quad meeting, a Quad summit meeting is expected in India at some time. Of course, President Putin is also going to be in India later in the year, possibly December. So all these things are really up in the air. And then you add to that, the President of the United States is rather unpredictable behavior. We don't know what he's going to do tomorrow. I'm not sure he knows what he's going to do tomorrow. So all of that, when the most powerful man in the world has a sort of behavioral pattern, which is the way it is, then it's very difficult for other people to adjust to it, because then naturally there are problems. And the President of the United States has had this problem in these first 200 days. Now we have to see after all of this what actually happens, because who knows, he could change his mind tomorrow and then change it back. So all of that is unknown. These are known factors. But as a country, as a sovereign country, India and other countries have to be careful of where things are going, which is why perhaps this SCO summit, apart from being a step forward, a way of saying that, look here, we have problems with China, but we are ready to solve it, or at least work towards solving it. As was once said, let us not negotiate out of fear, but let us not fear to negotiate. And yes, if there is a forward movement, if, let's say, one of the easier things to do is say that, okay, both sides will move their troops to where they were before the Galwan incident. If that happens, then both sides can come back and say, yes, we've achieved something.
Exact deliverables, what they are when it comes to this summit, you rightly said there has been a lot of groundwork and something concrete must be planned. But at the same time, we have a lot of reactions coming in, excitement on the ground. Listen to the reactions.
I'm a Kathak dancer. It is really excited to actually dance for Modi ji. It will be a very unforgettable experience for our life. We really enjoyed.
If I can request one step, if you can perform.
Yes, of course.
The mood upbeat on the ground. These are some of the performers who will obviously be welcoming the Prime Minister, talking about the excitement they have for the Prime Minister. Earlier, my colleague Swati also filed a report. Take a look.
इस बार एससीओ समिट चीन के तियानजिन में हो रहा है और मेरे पीछे आप देख सकते हैं ये मीडिया सेंटर है जहां पर तमाम तैयारियां की गई हैं क्योंकि दुनिया भर से मीडिया कर्मी यहां पर पहुंचे हैं। एससीओ में क्या बातचीत होगी, क्या नेगोशिएशन होगी, क्या डीलिंग होगी, उस पर रिपोर्टिंग करने के लिए एक बहुत ही यूनिक पहलू मैं आपको दिखाती हूं कि चीन जैसे देश में जहां पर अगर आप भारत से हैं या किसी और देश से हैं, हो सकता है आपको कभी लैंग्वेज प्रॉब्लम हो या आपने फेस भी की हो अगर आप पहले कभी चीन आए हो, तो इस बात का ध्यान रखा गया है। जगह जगह पर ऐसी मशीन्स डिप्लॉय की गई हैं जो कि इंग्लिश बोलती हैं, रशियन और चाइनीज भाषा में आपको जवाब दे सकती हैं। एक हमारा एक्सपीरियंस एयरपोर्ट पर रहा, जब हम इमिग्रेशन के लिए वहां पर आए तो सारा इंस्ट्रक्शन जो था कि लेफ्ट हाथ के फिंगर्स आप मशीन पर रखिए, ये हिंदी में बोला जा रहा था। तो ये एक एफर्ट आप देख रहे हैं चीन की तरफ से भी टू एंश्योर कि लोग कंफर्टेबल फील करें जब यहां पर आएं, और ये इस बात को भी दर्शाता है कि रिपोर्टिंग करने में आसानी मीडिया पर्सनल को हो, लैंग्वेज कोई बैरियर ना बन जाए, इसका खास ख्याल रखा गया है। टेक्नोलॉजी का जिक्र मैंने आपसे किया था। जब आप मीडिया सेंटर में एंटर करेंगे तो यहाँ डेस्क पर आपको जितने वॉलंटियर्स हैं इनके साथ आपको वेलकम करने के लिए एक रोबोट भी यहाँ पर दिखाई देगा। इसी टेक्नोलॉजी का और इस यूनिक पहलू का मैं बात कर रही थी। इस रोबोट से बात करते हैं। हमें ये बताया गया है कि ये इंग्लिश, चाइनीज और रशियन, इन तीनों लैंग्वेजेस में आपसे बात कर सकती है और आपके सवालों का जवाब भी देगी। तो चलिए आइए बात करते हैं। नी हाओ।
नी हाओ, 很高兴为您服务。
Can you say Namaste India?
Namaste India.
Can you share a little bit with us about the SCO summit?
The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is an important international event that brings together member states to discuss regional cooperation, security and
तो इसी तरह से अगर आपको कोई भी जानकारी एससीओ के बारे में चाहिए तो केवल यहाँ वॉलंटियर्स नहीं लेकिन टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करके रोबोट्स भी डिप्लॉय किए गए हैं जो आपके हर सवाल का जवाब आपकी भाषा में देंगे। ईज ऑफ ऑपरेशन यहाँ नजर आ रहा है और भी ऐसे बहुत सारे अनोखे पहलू टेक्नोलॉजी और एआई के हैं जिनका इस्तेमाल यहाँ मीडिया सेंटर में किया गया है। आगे रिपोर्ट पे वो भी दिखाऊंगी आपको।
All right, that was the ground report. The Prime Minister has landed in China. All eyes obviously on the SCO summit, the Modi bilateral. We'll bring you each and every update from the ground there in China. As of now, slipping into a short commercial break.